That's what I was looking at. Oh, we got the signal. Hey everyone. Okay, now we got the signal. There we go. Hey everyone, welcome into Leupold Live. It's our opportunity to talk directly to you, for you to talk directly to us, ask us a bunch of questions, interact with us, all that kind of good stuff. You know the drill. My name's Nick. With us today we have Mr. Shawn Skipper. So Shawn is our PR guy in the marketing group, right? You want to talk a little bit about like what you do on a daily basis, how long you've been here, all that good stuff?
Yeah, I've been at Leupold about 18 months now, also living in the Pacific Northwest 18 months. Prior to that, I was living out the Mid-Atlantic in Virginia.
Yeah, you were East Coaster, right? And you drove your car all the way over here, and you like in the Northwest?
Yes, treat me well, and I'll tell you what, I've never gotten my oil changed twice in 4 days before.
That's a lot of miles.
The guy at Jiffy Lube was surprised. He was like, "Is this number accurate?" I was like, "Yeah, man, I just drove 3,000 miles. Look, I'm just taking care of my car. I'm bringing it in."
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's treated me very well. So I'm out here. I'm happy to be here. I work with a lot of trade media. Work with a lot of groups and partners around the industry. Happy to finally be in front of the camera talking to you guys. Nick was afraid to have me on because I'm so much taller than he is.
I was like, I wanted to just put out there, I am a normal sized human being. And Shawn's massive, so not massive, but you're a big guy. What are you, 6'4"?
That's 6'4", yeah.
All right, so I'm 6 foot on a good day. At least that's what my driver's license says. So.
And as Nick said, I am from the East Coast, so if I get talking a little too fast, I'll try to get him to slow me down. It is just my nature. Yeah. But Nick will try to check me if I get going a little fast. He is my buddy on that.
Yeah, we got laid back West Coast. We got hyper East Coast right here. So we should have a good mix here. So for this episode, we're going to focus kind of on spring hunting, your spring kit, what you need to get out there, turkey hunting, bear hunting, that kind of stuff, right? Mm-hmm. It's that season.
Absolutely.
The clocks have changed. The days are getting longer, right? People are kind of coming out of their hole, and seeing the sun for the first time.
Not yet in Oregon.
Not yet in Oregon, man. It's been raining here nonstop. So, but you got turkey camps planned, all that kind of stuff. So, I'm not a turkey expert or bear hunting expert. I've actually never gone turkey or bear hunting, so that's why I'm going to lean on you.
No problem.
For all this stuff. So let's start with turkey hunting because I feel like that's one of the most accessible things, for people to start hunting, right?
Absolutely. You can get into turkey hunting fairly easily, not a lot of gear. And I know in some places that it's actually already started. Turkey season in the Southeast started as early as mid to late March.
Okay.
I've got friends who are hunting turkeys in Texas right now. So if any of our viewers out there, if you've killed a turkey already this year, please send us the photo, put it in the comments, send it to the Instagram page. We'll have Scott take a look at that later, see if there are any we can share.
Nice.
I know there are birds on the ground all over the country already. Here in Oregon, we actually have to wait until this coming Monday, April 15th. We're up here, we're further north. The weather's a little different, the climate's a little different, so we don't mess with our birds until the middle of the month. And we've got until the 15th, from April 15th to May 31. So I know a lot of guys here in the office are starting to itch. I've heard some turkey calls the last few days.
I was like, I know it's turkey season because I'll be sitting there answering emails and I hear the turkey call. I'm not even going to try to do one of those. But
I've heard some good calls, some bad calls, some worse calls.
So let's talk about that a little bit. Calls, for instance. So how do you call a turkey in? Like what apparatus do you use? Just use your mouth, or is there something you can buy?
Yeah, you've got a couple different systems of turkey call. I mean, the traditional ones, you've got a box call, a slate call, or friction call, and your diaphragm call, which has gotten very popular the last couple decades.
Okay.
You kind of throw it in your mouth, working a lot like an elk call.
Okay.
A lot of people have gotten hot on that. Those are the three primary calls. There are 100 different other options. I've been given little wooden box calls.
Yeah.
Little scratch calls. There's a lot of different ways to call turkey. I've seen guys make them out of old pill bottles. That was like a very popular back in the 70s and 80s, and some of the world champions across this country have used modified pill bottles to make their own turkey calls, and they've gone on to win calling championships. It's really a very unique product lineup.
Yeah.
And there's just been a lot of guys, a lot of Southeastern hunters over the years have played with different methods and really perfected them. And my advice to folks out there, pick up the three big ones, the trinity there, the box call, the friction call, the diaphragm call. Play with all three, figure out what you're good with, what you're comfortable with. Biggest thing with turkeys is if you don't think you sound good, they know you don't sound good, and you don't want to bugger them off. So don't feel like you have to use something like a diaphragm call if you're not good at it, if you're not comfortable with it, just because your buddy's good at it. That's fine. If the way I tell people is like, look, do you get in a duck blind and just make a fool of yourself with a duck call just to be calling, or do you let your buddy who's really good work the birds in?
We were talking earlier, is like you don't want to overcall too, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to sit there and constantly and try to get them in because you're going to probably drive them away, right?
Yeah. You want to sound natural, and if you've not turkey hunted a lot, check out some videos online. There's some excellent callers out there. Some of our partners at Mossy Oak are some of the best in the world at working birds. Watch their videos, get a feel for how often they're calling, listen to how often the real birds are talking. You don't want to talk so much that turkey realizes this doesn't sound natural. Something doesn't seem right. Because you give those bird brain things the slightest reason, and they'll bugger off. They don't always just take off running, although I've seen that too. Sometimes they'll just be like, stop at 100 yards, be like, nah, not today.
Like you were talking about, don't be like the drunk guy at the bar talking the girl's ear off, right? Not shutting up, and she's gonna take off, right?
Yeah.
Same thing
when
with the turkey.
when you've got everything looking good, don't keep going.
Don't keep going. Yeah, just let her come in. So what other pieces of kit do you need to be successful in a turkey hunt?
Well, what you're looking at, you need your shotgun. Obviously, I know there's some guys that bow hunt turkeys out there, but I'd call them some of the more experienced bird hunters. So if you're just getting started, we're going to start with a shotgun.
Yeah.
You're going to want some optics, obviously, so you can track down, see these birds, find these birds, know what you're dealing with, identify hen, gobbler, things like that.
Right.
You need your calls. I'd recommend either a turkey vest or a pack you're happy with, because the vests, if you've not seen them before, have a lot of little pockets on them, kind of worn in lieu of a pack. They've got pockets specifically cut for different calls, things like that. I'd say buy some above grade shotgun ammunition, shot shells. With turkeys you can shoot lead, and a lot of companies are doing tungsten and other mixtures now.
Okay.
And really, that's enough to get you started.
So that's why it's really easy to get into it, because the amount of gear that you actually need is pretty low, right? You can get out there with minimal stuff and be successful in the field, right?
Sure. If you can find the biggest thing, if you can find birds, you don't need a lot of gear to make it work.
Yeah.
Maybe you add a decoy. Maybe you get a pop-up line, so you're definitely not getting seen by these birds. Turkeys are very visual. That's their only real defense. Is if they see something that's wrong, they're out of there.
Right.
They can hear you a little bit if they start getting too close, but they're not going to smell you.
Right.
It's all their eyes, and they have excellent vision. That's one of the reasons. They were so hard to hunt back when the settlers first came here, and I know Benjamin Franklin for a while wanted to make them the national bird, because they were very unique to North America, and also very difficult to kill. Unless I know a lot back in the olden days, they just go get them off the roost, which we do not do anymore.
You can't really do that anymore.
But hunt them in the field in I'd say the 1800s. I can't imagine what it was like trying to call a turkey in.
That would be difficult for sure. Yeah, maybe they had old pill bottles back then, little wooden pill bottles or something they could make. So speaking of shotguns, so we had a good question. Speaking of questions, like I mentioned before, we are answering questions live. If you have a question, submit it. I got the questions popping up right here on my laptop. Carter Ride X Hall, I hope I said that right. He wanted to know, talking about shotguns, shotgun bead, regular open sights, or a red dot for turkeys.
Now that's an interesting question. It changes it's very generational. I feel like I know guys out there that to this day they want to go kill their turkey with maybe the same shotgun they're using to shoot ducks all fall and winter.
Okay.
All it's got on is that front bead. They're comfortable with it. It's probably just a blued barrel, very standard looking old shotgun. You know what? It works. My dad's one of those guys. If he's going to go out and kill a turkey, it's going to be with his duck gun. He's not going to bother with anything else. And I'm not going to tell you not to do that. If it's working, fine. I'm not going to upsell you for no reason. Open sights, a lot of those now, you're seeing companies make turkey specific guns that just have the open sights, because guys don't want to move up to an optic yet. And I'd like to come up to the I've been using optics on my turkey guns long before I got to Leupold.
Right. I was like, we're biased, obviously, but that's good to know that you were using optics before.
And here's the thing, two things. It's kind of two-pronged. One, turkey ammunition is getting a lot better.
Okay.
Like I said, you've always been able to use lead for turkeys, even after waterfowl lost the ability to use lead for hunting. You got turkeys. You can still shoot lead shells at turkeys. The last few years, we've seen a huge swing in just these amazing turkey shot shells, whether you've got the Winchester long beard with kind of that resin that holds the lead together longer. You've got companies like Heavy Shot working on tungsten loads and things like that. You can touch birds at the 60, 65 yards.
I was like, so that's
now.
beneficial for a longer shot, right?
Yes.
So the group's going to hold together longer at those distances, and you're going to have more accurate shot placement, right?
So when you're going to reach out to maybe 60 yards to kill a bird, and honestly, I've seen some of this ammunition, you can do so ethically.
Yeah.
What you're dealing with is suddenly you put that bead or those iron sights on the bird's neck and head area, and it's pretty small.
Yeah.
And you've got a bead, and that's what you're trying to aim with. And that's where a red dot, or in some cases a scope, really comes in to make sure you are holding where you need to be holding at that distance with the shotgun. Because you don't take 60-yard shots on geese, because the ammunition just doesn't do it.
Right. And I think, again, I've never gone turkey hunting, but I would think the same concept holds true, I think for me at least, with pistol shooting, is concentrating on your front post. I would imagine concentrating on your bead a lot, and your image downrange is it's out of focus, right?
Yeah.
So your shot placement, again, to your point, may not be as exact. Where, I mean, the red dot is so intuitive. You put the red dot on it, and you're focusing directly on that target, and you pull the trigger and get the bird.
I've killed birds with red dots. I've killed birds with low power fixed scopes, and I've done it with the front bead as well. And I think the red dot is the best of the three options. And the second half of that too, along with the emission, is we might not all want to admit it, but I know Nick and I are on the wrong side of about 21, so our eyes are going that way.
I got some gray hair.
Our eyes are going the wrong direction. I haven't been able to see since I was 10 years old to begin with. And let's face it, my dad and his buddies out there turkey hunting, I know their eyes are no good. I still make fun of my dad when we go to a restaurant and he can't order a steak because he can't find it on the menu.
It's 40 seconds of this.
Yes.
You can see trying to get in focus. Yeah.
Accept your limitations and put something on there that's going to help you harvest more animals and do so in an ethical manner. So and especially with the way red dots are just becoming more and more affordable every day.
Absolutely. Speaking of transition, Shawn made a good point. He brought in our new RDS for us to talk about here. So DP Pro, that's been out for a number of years, and I've seen guys use those on shotguns, work really, really well, right? But the RDS is really fills a gap, maybe that price level below the DP Pro there, but you get a lot of benefits. I mean, this thing we didn't skimp on it at all. It is truly a workhorse red dot, right?
Oh, absolutely, and it comes in at an excellent price point. You're going to find this on the shelves under $300,
right.
The standard RDS. One thing I'll note here is the mounts. I've swapped out the mounts on this particular unit. The RDS does ship with a mount that's pre-cut to really be the perfect height for an AR-15.
Yep.
Fortunately, we also already offer 34 millimeter rings that are perfect for it. You can mount this directly to the Picatinny rail of your shotgun. Gets it lower, so your head's not coming off the stock or getting a little high and uncomfortable for you.
I have shot sporting clays and stuff like that before, and trap and stuff. And then the key is that cheek weld, right? Having that cheek, dug into the stock, right? And having those lower rings achieves that. What rings do you have on there?
These are the 34 millimeter PRW2 highs.
Right.
And looking at them, I really think on some shotguns you'd obviously have to look at your shotgun in particular. The mediums would work.
Yeah. Also, I was thinking backcountry mounts too. Our new backcountry mounts, those come in a 34 millimeter as well. If you want to go aluminum rather than steel, that's another great option, as well.
Easy on, easy off, and the RDS, it's got a 1 MOA dot, nice real fine dot that's perfect for a turkey's head. You're looking at a bird, let's say we'll go with the more average range of 35 to 45 yards. With no magnification, that's not a big target, so you don't want to put a big dot on it and just really lose sight of what you're aiming at. Like, okay, my dot's covering the upper half of the bird. You don't want that to happen. So a good 1 MOA dot on that bird, you're going to be able to see what you're shooting at. Real crisp, real clear. I think the RDS, like I said, we've really produced it more for that AR-15 market, but it's definitely going to find a home with turkey hunters. This one I'm holding in my hand is going to go in my shotgun next week when I get out in the field.
Nice, yeah. That's an awesome combination. So yeah, definitely check that out if you haven't. They're shipping now. I went downstairs the other day, saw boxes going out the door. So you should start to see these in stores pretty soon.
Now your DP Pro, Nick, I know you're talking about.
Yep.
Much slimmer profile, much smaller unit, much lighter.
Yep, lighter. Has all the click adjustments, the battery on top, all the good stuff that you guys are probably familiar with. Really wide field of view. That's one of the benefits of that, I think. But yeah, it's there's pros and cons too. I can see some pros actually to go into that on a shotgun as well. So it's just finding what you're comfortable with, right? And what's going to fit your shotgun best.
Yeah, and with the DP Pro, of course, you're going to need one of our cross slot mounts if you're throwing on a Picatinny rail on your shotgun.
Yep.
DP Pro does not ship with a mount, but we've got them for you. One thing I do want to note with any of our red dots, if you're looking to put them on a shotgun, you are going to need a pick rail. I mean, we don't have any rib mounted.
That's true. Yeah.
It's just something to be aware of with a Leupold.
Yeah, I've seen some guys get super fancy and they'll take it to a gunsmith or something and have it milled out or something like that. That's always an option if you want to go that route. But yeah, if you just want to go the standard route, like Shawn was mentioning with the pick rail, that'd be the way to go.
Yeah, we don't mess with I'd say shotgun specific red dots, might go on the rib or something like that. These are excellent options, and the big thing I want to hammer home with both of these units and any of our products really, turkey shotgun. You're looking at a 12 gauge. 3.5 inch shell. Granted, you can kill them with a 20 gauge too, or a 2 3/4 inch shell. But if you're going for those big turkey loads, which I know a lot of guys do, there are those guys out there that say I shoot 3.5 inch because nobody makes a 4.
Right.
So there's going to be those guys out there that you're generating a lot of recoil. You know, shotguns are recoil heavy to begin with. You put a 3.5 inch turkey load, built Magnum turkey load in there, it's gonna hit you pretty good.
Yeah.
And if your optics not up to snuff, it's going to get rattled. I have already given a guy a DP Pro this year. He'll remain nameless, but he called me and said I had a competitor's red dot on there. He was shooting Magnum 3.5 inch 12 gauge at predators, coyotes, and the optic literally fell apart. It couldn't handle the recoil the shotgun was producing, and it essentially exploded.
Yeah, and we talk about that all the time, but that is the benefit of this stuff. It's all tested to the same specs. And the spec is a ridiculous spec because we don't know what you're going to put it on. And especially like the DP Pro or something like that, when we're talking about pistol recoil is pretty violent too. So these things are built super solid. So no matter where you go in the lineup, it's going to be able to withstand that recoil. Speaking of loads, you were just talking about, Haywall wants to know, is it legal to use tungsten for a turkey hunt?
I'd say look state to state. For the most part, yes. With turkey loads, they've not had the restrictions on that waterfowl hunters have had to deal with, and companies have really started exploring with new products. Federal's got a new TSS load that came out this year that I've not used yet. I've heard it's wicked good.
Yeah.
I've heard guys killing with 410 in the new Federal load. So that's where the optics really come in. The evolution of these ammunition products is impressive, and you're reaching out to range. You almost need an optic now.
Yeah, right. Another question, this one got put to the top of the list. Mr. Tim Kennedy, who's watching, thanks Tim.
No, Tim Kennedy's watching.
Wants to know who the best shooter is in your building.
So Tim's not in the building, so it can't be him.
Tim's not in the building, so it can't be him. I would like to say me, but I know it's not me. I guess it depends on your shooting. There's a couple guys who are really good at long range. I dabble in both. I do long range and pistol. I think I'm probably better at pistol, but we have one guy, I'm going to call him out, Saba. He works over in our IT department. Guy burns it down. He does a ton of defensive, like IDPA style, pistol competitions. Runs his, his fully decked out STI and with the DP Pro on top, and he just, the guy's so good. And,
shoots the lights out, gets viruses off your computer.
Exactly. So good.
I told you to stop browsing.
Good question. Right? So that's cool. Even our IT guys, the IT guys can outshoot me. So
I think Tim's just got to come out here and have a shoot off with whoever in the building wants to compete.
All right, that actually sounds like.
So Tim, get on out here. Yeah. Come on back. Don't put any scopes down your pants this time.
Yeah, that's in the contract. I think he has to do that. Let's see. This is a good question. 4JS Homestead. What's the ideal weather look like? He was talking about bear, but I'm going to talk about turkey. We'll talk about bear too, but ideal weather when you're doing a spot and stock.
If you're looking for a turkey, ideal weather, in the spring, the biggest thing these animals aren't going to like is real heavy winds. And the reason is wind messes with all of your senses.
Yeah.
You're not going to see as well. You're not going to hear as well. It can really play with scents and things like that. So I'd say if you're dealing with just gale force winds, you're not going to mess with a lot of birds. I've seen them, shelter up if it's an absolute downpour, but I've not met very many hunters that want to go out in an absolute downpour, even here in the Pacific Northwest. We're tolerant to a lot of rain, but if it's just coming down in buckets, if you don't want to be out there, they probably don't want to be out there either. That said, both bears and turkeys, pretty resilient animals. Rain's not going to mess them up for the most part.
Yeah.
Unless you're dealing with extreme conditions one way or the other, they should still be out doing what they've got to do. I mean, these animals have to go about their business on a daily basis the same way we do.
They're out foraging, looking for food, that kind of stuff. Let's see. Oh, Mike Cagworks, what's up? Yeah. Hey, Mike. Thanks for joining us. Let's see. Let's get to some more questions. John Gabriel, do you think bears are better than turkeys? I guess a personal preference. Right?
I guess a bear would win a fight. Is that what he's asking?
Yeah, it's a bear.
What
if there was a turkey? What if there's a bear-sized turkey though?
The old bear-sized turkey or 100 turkey-sized bears.
Yeah, exactly.
They actually make turkey-sized bears. They're just cubs. I mean.
Yeah, I don't know. It's I guess personal preference, right?
It depends on what you'd like to hunt. They're different, very different style of hunts. Bear hunting, you're looking at, and at least in the spring, a lot of glassing, a lot of getting up on ridges, looking down, trying to find these bears on the move. Maybe you can call them a little bit if you're a good predator caller, but it's a lot of glassing, a lot of patience. Turkeys, honestly, I'll call out my buddy Ryan, who's originally from Georgia. He actually works for Fred Eichler down in Colorado now.
Oh, okay.
Worked for him for years.
Yeah.
Turkey hunting, and Michael Wonke, our boss, actually, the more I talk to him about turkey hunting, the more interested he gets. He's a big elk hunter.
Yeah.
It's a lot like hunting a little elk. And Ryan, who I'm going to butcher his accent here, but he is Southeastern. He once told me, he's like, Skipper, hunting elk's just, like hunting a big turkey that can smell you. And it's very similar. You're out interacting with these animals. You're talking to them. The behavior patterns, because in the spring turkeys are out there trying to breed the same way elk are during, say, early archery seasons.
Yeah.
It's a lot of back and forth. You're trying to call them sometimes maybe from cows or hens they've got over to you. You're trying to get them to come to you. It's a very, very similar hunt. Much smaller animal. Turkey strengths, obviously its eyesight versus its nose. But very, very similar. That's why Mike's pumped about it. And Ryan, thank you for that tip. I've used it, and it makes me sound much more intelligent than I really am.
Yeah. Scott, our producer there behind the camera, I think he thought that was an unfair question because he told me I should ask him if hobbits are better than elves. So I'm sure we could go down that rabbit hole.
Elves are kind of snooty. Like hobbits are much cooler, man. They just want to make you lunch and hang out.
I don't know. The elf lamb looks pretty cool.
You telling me you wouldn't want second breakfast?
That's true. That's true. So, what else, like turkey hunting wise, what would you be wearing? I guess that's a good question too. Like, what's your kit look like that you're wearing? Like camo patterns? Are you in a blind or something like that?
Well, turkey is, like I said, very visual.
Yeah.
It's all about what if they see you, what they're seeing. Does it bother them? So your camouflage has got to be on point.
Right, and because you're more close quarters, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're
looking
close to them.
Like at the very least 50 to 60 yards is where you're going to pull it. That's like the line where you might be able to pull the trigger.
Okay.
And in some cases, if they surprise you, it might be 5 to 10 yards. They might be right on top of you. You could have birds. I've had a hen stick her head in a pop-up blind and look at me. And you just kind of sit there frozen.
You didn't pull the trigger in the blind, did you?
No,
oh, okay.
No, I don't want to mess with a hen. Didn't even have the gun in my hand because we were watching a gobbler that was 100 yards away, and she just appeared and stuck her head right in the window.
Yeah.
They're goofy birds, so you really got to match your camouflage to the environment you're going to be hunting.
Yeah.
The Pacific Northwest and the Greater Southeast obviously very different.
Right.
Mossy oak pattern is very popular in the eastern part of the country because it just really blends in well. Out here, people might go with a little more technical clothing only because we deal with a lot of rain.
Yeah.
Most of turkey season here, it's going to be raining.
Yeah.
It's going to be nasty conditions.
Yeah.
So, but you want to blend in with your environment as much as you can. Absolutely wear a face mask. I've got a big pale white face. This is not natural in the environment. Like, bird. If this is sticking out of a bush, a bird's going to see it.
You basically look like a mime on the edge of the field, right? Just standing there.
If everything's great, but then you've got this big white floating head, that's not going to work.
Might be off-putting, yes. Yeah.
So wear a face mask. If you don't want to do a vest, that's fine. Just get a good pack you have very easy access to because you might be changing out calls a lot and things like that. Other little kind of bits of equipment you might consider because you're ultimately probably going to shoot this bird sitting down, whether you're against a tree, sitting in a little stool, something like that. Maybe a bipod, like a standing bipod rest to put your shotgun on, so it's always out in front of you, so you don't got to reach for it when the bird pops out and he sees that movement. There are different little products you can kind of put on your knee or thigh. You got like a little rest on it. You can rest the gun on there that would safely rest it, pointing the right direction. But again, quick access. You don't want a bird to come over that ridge and be looking at you at 45 yards, and now you've got to reach for your gun.
So being comfortable and quick access, right? Because you don't want to be moving around and wrestling around a lot. You want to be able to stay still comfortably for a long period of time, and then minimal movements to get your shotgun up and on target, right?
Absolutely. You don't want to lose a bird because he pops out at 30 yards, and now you've got to grab your gun. He sees that movement, and he's gone. You got to remember, hunting a deer or elk, big game. You're probably trying to get the drop on them, shoot them when they can't see you, when they're not looking at you. You're literally calling a bird to you.
Yeah, right.
Like he's going to be coming at you.
Right.
In which case, you are suddenly on display, and you've got to be very careful with that.
So speaking of, you're in close, let's talk about spotting them, right? So most people would use a pair of binos, I think, right? You're not going to probably use a spotting scope.
If you've got a huge piece of land you can look at, maybe a spotter comes into play.
But most guys are going to use.
They're going to get out in the woods and do some hiking, check a couple big fields, clear cuts, and just spot them with.
So maybe like an 8-power, maybe like this. We got an 8-power right here, right? These new Alpines.
Oh yeah, the BX2 Alpine. Again, the 8-power would be solid. That's really all you'd need. If you prefer 10, we've got them in 10.
Yep.
real lightweight, real tough. You don't need a lot of magnification, so you don't need a lot of weight as you're hiking around in the turkey woods, because it can be a very strenuous day of checking a bunch of spots. Maybe you're doing a little run and gun and working through the woods proper, stopping and doing some stands and calling.
Yeah.
So you don't want to be hauling around a ton of extra weight. That's why the vest is great. You put your essentials on there, and you kind of just meander through the woods.
Okay.
So they're brand new for this year. Real lightweight, real value price too.
Yeah. Great pricing on those. Really good performance. I like the slimmer hinge. A big guy like Shawn, who's got big meat hooks for hands.
Yeah, he can
actually fit his hands on there.
I'm kind of covering them up.
Hinge, which is nice. Magnesium housing. Just a really good, solid binocular for a really good price.
Yeah, and they've got the Twilight Max light management system on here.
Yep.
So great for low light performance. Great
Same
picking
as the VX3i.
Yeah, great at picking out those reds and the blues, and that's key with the turkey too, because if you get on a group of birds, if you hear a gobble, you know what you're dealing with. It's either going to be a Jake or a full-on Tom.
Yep.
The hen's not going to gobble at you, but if you kind of get on, say you come across a field and you 500 yards away, you see some birds kind of hanging around a tree, you're starting to roost. Okay, you've got to figure out what's out there to see if it's worth going over there.
Right.
And at that distance, picking out hen to gobbler is not easy. You're going to be looking at their head color. Gobbler's going to have a little more color, a little red, maybe some more color in their feathers. They're going to be bigger birds. They got that beard, although of course a beard is not a guarantee. It's a gobbler. I think the numbers are about 10% of hens can grow a beard.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So that's important to know. A beard does not automatically mean a Tom.
Yeah.
Usually yes, but I've known some guys to kill some bearded hens. In some states that's legal, in some states it's not. So again, you got to be careful about that and check your regs. You honestly want to kill a gobbler. You don't want to go out there and shoot a hen for the most part. So you're going to be looking for that red and blue, that real dark blue, that real bright red face.
Right. So proper identification key. Yeah. Good set of binoculars.
Yeah. And by the time they're close enough to shoot, you're going to know what it is. But identifying, is it worth it to hike all the way around there and try to get the drop on these turkeys? Yeah. That's where identification is important.
Cool.
Because you don't want to bugger a whole afternoon to get over there to find 4 hens and a Jake with a beard, a quarter-inch long, and be like, well, darn.
Right. So let's transition a bit. That's super good information about turkey hunting there. But bear season is upon us too. So spring bear, and a lot of guys are getting excited for that. How is that different than the turkey? Right? What is it? A little different pieces of kit that you're going to need. Obviously, the terrain's probably going to be a little different than where you're going to be turkey hunting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's honestly a complete trade out. You're going from shotgun to rifle, unless you're one of those guys that's in a state where you might hunt them with a slug gun. Yeah. You're switching over to your center fire rifle. You're going into much bigger country usually. Bear country tends to be big country. You're going to have to find these guys at usually much longer ranges, put a stalk on them. Yeah. And okay, maybe I know some guys that are qualified enough predator callers to try to work them in, but for the most part, it's going to be glassing big canyons, glassing big open fields, and hoping you catch a bear on the move, and then putting kind of the whammy on him.
Yeah, you're not calling them in like a turkey. You're doing the opposite.
I know some guys that have called in bears. It's doable.
Really? Yeah, I've never heard of someone do a bear call before.
It's just like any predator calling, Nick. Yeah. What you kind of want to do is maybe fawn in distress. Okay. Remember, predators are all just they hunt on opportunity. Yep. So if they think there's a fawn that's has lost mama and is out there and is kind of panicked and they're feeling a little frisky, they might come try to take that fawn. Yeah. Two big things with calling bears. One, remember, if you're calling a bear and it actually works, odds are the first time you see that bear is going to be in your lap, so be ready.
And that's why it's important. We talked about this. We probably carry sidearm with you. Well, I carry sidearm with me anytime we go out in the woods, but especially with bear hunting, right? If they come out super close,
Yeah, no, honestly, that's an option. And two, if you're going to call them in close, one thing you could look into, I hadn't even thought about bringing them out today, is we've got the new DP Pro mounts.
Oh, that's true. Yeah,
put them on for sure. Put them on the side of your rifle scope. Just real quick acquisition.
The ring top mounts that go on the scope. So if you did get surprised somehow and something came out super close, to take a snapshot, a DP Pro on top of a magnified optic's the way to go for sure. Yeah, I mean, it's bear country, it's thick country. So imagine, a lot of times predator hunters get surprised with coyotes sometimes. That's why so many go down to a shotgun. Coyote suddenly pops up at 30, 40 yards. Imagine a 250, 300-pound one coming out. Right. You're going to want to be ready. 9 times out of 10, that bear's going to see you and scatter anyway, but you're going to have to be quick. You're going to have to get on him fast and make that early decision. So you can call in some places. You get up into parts of Canada or even parts of the West here. You got to be careful because you're in grizzly country and you don't want to call one of those in because on top of everything else, you can't do anything about it if he comes in. Right. So, talking about the scopes and stuff that you're going to need for that, we have our Our Bear Essentials story is up right now on Leupold.com, so you can go check that out for the complete kit. But the scope we have up there is that VX5 HD to 3-15. And I feel like that's the perfect magnification for what we were talking about, because you said it is pretty thick country where they live, right? So to have that low power that's still a wide, field of view is important. But to have that magnification also, because it could be on the other side of a ravine or something like that.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
It lets you reach out. It lets you dial down in the case you do get surprised, whether you're calling them or tracking a downed bear or a wounded bear. You're going to want to dial that back to 3 in case you've got to make a quick follow-up shot.
Yep.
One of the scariest things in the hunting world is tracking a wounded bear. I mean, you're hoping he's down at the end of that trail, but you honestly don't know until you get there.
Right.
And any wounded animal can be dangerous. Bear is actually a predator, got those claws, got those teeth. You don't want to have to deal with that. So you can dial it down to 3. You're going into the thick brush after him. It gives you that opportunity, really gives you the right magnification. Just pull up and put him down for good.
Speaking of tracking, that's a great segue, and we haven't talked about these.
I'm just
two.
the king of segues.
Well, professional PR guy.
It's like I do this for a living.
It's like he does this for a living, right? So makes my job a lot easier, right? But we have our 2 LTOs right here for tracking purposes. We use it for a lot of other stuff too. But this year we came out with the LTO2 HD and the regular LTO2. So you might be familiar. We've had these out for a couple of years now. Really affordable, compact thermal imaging unit, right? That you can put it in your pack, your kit, on a belt. There's really it weighs hardly anything. There's really no reason not to have one out in the field.
Only if your regs tell you not to have one.
That's true.
It's important to know. Very important with these. Make sure thermal is legal in your state before you take one of these out in the field, even for recovery tracking purposes. Because let's face it, even if you honestly are just using it for recovery, you don't want to have that conversation with your game officials.
Right.
So make sure it's legal in your state before you get out there. But yeah, the Tracker 2 HD here, it's excellent for maybe locating bears. Early. You're looking at a black bear. He's probably going to be, if he's going to be out there, you're looking at very early morning or the last couple hours before dark.
Yep.
So everything else should be a little bit cooler than him. Be able to get this up, move it across a big field, big clear cut. See if you pick up any heat. Great for recovery too. Bears, they're actually, bears, they've got a lot of loose skin in the spring, and then they've got a lot of fat in the fall once they've beefed up.
Okay.
Beef back up.
Makes sense.
And between that and that thick, dark, shaggy, shiny hair, they don't bleed a lot. It's coming out, but it's getting caught. It's getting caught up in that hair, getting matted up. They typically don't leave great blood trails, no matter how well you just plug them right through the vitals. And that can make it difficult to track them down, especially you shoot them, say, 6, 7 o'clock in the spring. By the time you get over to where you shot them, the sun's gone down, it's dark. You're looking for very little blood with maybe just your headlamp or a big flashlight.
Yeah.
Something like this coming to real handy. Trying to pick out that warm blood and really get on the trail of that bear so you're not out there until 2 a.m. dealing with a potentially wounded bear.
It's a really good tip. And then also, we want to mention the new feature on the 2s, the HD and the regular 2, is the beacon mode, which can be important if it's midday and the temperature's really high. You talked about low light situations where if the ambient temperature of the environment is cool, then that hot body's going to really pop. But if you're during the day and everything's kind of warm and everything's kind of the same temperature, it's hard to see detail, right, that you would in those extreme, the colder environments. So what beacon mode does is you hit the button and it basically calibrates to that specific set of temperatures. And it makes things pop. It actually will highlight the warmest part on the screen too. This red box will pop up and it'll go, warmest part is right there. Then it calibrates to that warmest part, and you can see better detail in those when the temperature is kind of even across all surfaces. So
I know we probably can't display it really well here, but let's see.
Let's see if Scott can do it. We've done it before with thermals, I think.
So if I were to set it, because it only works on high white, high black, and high low green, the beacon mode.
Yep.
So do we have my hand here, Scott? I can't tell.
Yeah, let Scott hold it.
All right. So my hand's pretty warm.
There you go.
Activate beacon mode, and it's going to recalibrate to set that as kind of the baseline.
There you go. So highlighted there.
Yeah, and you can refresh that as many times as you want.
Yeah. So the PLM Eric, the guy, the product line manager, he makes
avid bear hunter. By the way.
Avid bear hunter. He makes a note to. You're going to want to use beacon mode continuously. So if you're moving in an environment, you can keep pressing that and keep recalibrating as you go. which is important, and it's really going to pull out those details that you need.
Yeah, and it's designed to really extend the usability of the unit throughout the day. You know, you get to 1 o'clock, it's the spring now. We're not even talking about fall conditions. It could be hot. Yeah. And it's bad enough that a bear, you're gonna run into bear stumps all the time. I've seen about 300,000 bear stumps in my short career. You know, where you come around a corner or hike up to a ridge, and you're like, that's a stump.
Oh, it's a stump. Yeah.
So it's bad enough your eyes and maybe your binos are already going to do that to you because you're just so excited. You don't want to have the thermal reading a stump as a bear either. So you recalibrate it, and now you're going to know because that bear's going to be putting on some heat.
Yep. Yeah, really handy to have. It's handy for a lot of other things too. We've talked about it, but I always have one in the truck. Camping, even if you're at camp, right? You've gone hunting during the day. Just to have situational awareness around you, something's rustling in the bushes or something like that, you can pop over, see what it is. It's really handy tool. Yeah, limitless uses.
Yeah,
so.
Of all the things in the woods, we've got the worst eyes. So
yeah, we're not so good at night. So a little help is a good thing. Also talking to you about rangefinders, right? So rangefinders is another piece of kit that you're going to need on your bear hunt, again, because those shots can be taken at extended distances, or just seeing what distance you kind of have to close, right? Being like, oh, he's that far away, I need to cover this much ground to get within, a shooting range. So wide variety of rangefinders. We have a 1600 right here. We like to call this the second rangefinder that you'll purchase, right? I know Eric likes saying that too. The orange one, right? So,
I've only left a couple in the woods, all right?
Yeah.
One's on the ground somewhere in Colorado because it was gray and couldn't find it after I put it down. The other one, I know where it's at. It's in New Mexico hanging on like a cactus.
There you go. So if you're in New Mexico and you see, you have a treasure hunt for a rangefinder. So we got the 1600 here. We also have a 1300. The new 2800, so we have a number of different models within that new rangefinder family that you can look at. The cool thing about our rangefinders, and I love telling people this, is the reflective distance is what's on the unit, 1600 yards, 1300 yards, 2800 yards, but the real performance is your soft targets, and that's they're targets that aren't going to be reflective, right? Soft targets, deer, hide, rocks, bear
could not be less
stumps.
reflective. It just eats it.
Right.
I mean, that thick black hair just eats everything.
Exactly. So the performance on that level of performance, what you're really going to range in the real life, these blow everything else out of the water. We test across all other.
Oh yeah, and as we said, Eric Overstreet, our PLM for rangefinders, he goes out and he tests these on actual animal hides. And Eric, being a very dedicated bear hunter, is definitely testing them on lots of different bear hides that he hangs over sawhorses. And
you'll be driving through the parking lot and you'll see all these bear hides, hanging stuff in them, clicking away.
Yeah, you can't get much less reflective than matte black and hairy. So.
Yeah. Awesome. So what else? What else for bear? What else? What else would you need?
One thing with the rangefinder and the 3 to 15 both that I wanted to point out. The 1600 here, you're going to get a red LED OLED display.
Oh yeah.
You get the red OLED display, and in the VX5 3 to 15, you can get a fire dot reticle, and those are important to bring up for bear because again, that heavy black fur.
Right.
Granted, you get into places like Idaho, where I'm actually going hunting next month. You might deal with some color phase bears.
Okay.
Chocolate, cinnamon, color phase. A little bit easier to maybe see with your dark reticle or your a black display on your rangefinder.
Yeah.
Those black bears, you get on them, the illumination does help. It absolutely helps a lot. Makes it easier, especially if you've got bad eyes like me, like some of the older shooters out there. I know I'm not the only person in the world that wears glasses. I just wear the thickest ones. But you put that red dot on a bear's vitals, you just feel more confident than trying to settle maybe a fine crosshair over it or something like that, or a fine duplex reticle. And the red OLED display and the rangefinder works the same, especially if maybe you see a bear way out there and you're trying to range him at 800, 900 yards just to see what you're dealing with before you start a stalk. It's easier to pick up that red versus the black on him.
That makes total sense. Yeah, I mean, especially in Oregon here, dense canopy, a lot of dark areas, even in midday. Bear's going to blend in really well, and you might lose that black reticle in that bush. So
a lot of times you're taking your shot at a bear. Like I said, it's either super early in the morning or the last hour or two before the sun goes down. You can start losing light fast.
Yep.
Those last 30 hours of legal shooting light. If you've got tree cover, it can be pretty dark, and you could lose that reticle against a black target.
Getting back to questions, that made me think of a question that we got earlier. Where did it go? Oh, there it is. Colin Hartman, what scopes do you guys recommend for low light hunting? Speaking of first 30 minutes a day and last 30 minutes of the day. So we were joking around because all of them.
All of them?
Yeah.
That's kind of what we hang our hat on here is the low light performance. All of our scopes, we have Twilight Light Management, Twilight Max HD.
Right.
So you can kind of climb the scales a little bit, but they're all built to thrive in those low light conditions.
Yeah, I mean, it's a testament to our optical engineers working over there in the lab, coming up with those prescriptions. They do a really good job of making these optical prescriptions for real world lighting conditions. I always say that the worst place you can look at a scope is inside, like right here in fluorescent lights or at a gun counter or something like that. Try to take it outside, try to see how it performs looking in a dark area, and that's really where you're going to see the differences, and that's where all of our optical systems are tuned for. And you're going to see a difference. Take the scope out against your buddy's scope and watch the sun go down and see who can see longer. And I guarantee across the board, VX Freedom up to VX6 HD, the performance is gonna blow you away. So like you said, low light is what we do.
Yeah, and on that, we've also got the VX5 HD 4-20 by 52 here.
Someone was asking about CMO 9393.
What's up, CMO?
Yeah, when is the VX5 HD 4-20 going on sale?
I want to say they're going to be hitting shelves soon. This one came out of a box from the distribution center. So,
okay, nice.
So I'd say it's going to be soon.
I think I talked to the product line managers yesterday, and I think right after NRA they should start shipping out. So,
So first week of May, second week of May, maybe people will be seeing them.
Yep.
Perfect time for bear season. It's great if you want a little more magnification into your VX5 line. Previously the 3-15 was really the best we had there. Now we're going 4-20. You've still got the CDS dial option, and that's something I'd really recommend for bears as well. If you do have to dial out to a few hundred yards with your load, dial up, hold dead on. Bears have a real tough bone structure. You really want to plan a bear. So if you can dial rather than hold over, I think it'll make you feel a little more confident about knowing you're going to plug him where you need to plug him.
Yeah.
Hopefully break his shoulder, knock him down, make it a little harder, because I've seen wounded bears go over 2-3 miles.
Pretty hardy animals.
They are tough old brutes.
Let's see. Let's get to some questions and stuff. Well, a comment. JP Macklin says, "Been using Leupold since I was a kid. Keep up the good work, guys." Thank you, JP. We really appreciate that. I love hearing those stories. Shawn and I get to go to a lot of trade shows, so we get to talk to a lot of you face to face. And hearing that stuff is like I'm using the same scope my dad used, and it works. So love that stuff. Let's see, Jason Newcomb. What are the difference between the VX5 and VX6 besides the zoom ratio? Do they both use the same glass? So yeah, they both use the same Twilight Max HD lens prescription. On the VX6 HD, you're going to get some more bells and whistles. You're going to get some flip caps. It comes with a throw lever for the power selector. Also, the leveling system within the scope. So
they're all illuminated too.
They're all illuminated.
Versus VX5,
that's right.
Where it's
all
your
illuminated.
choice.
All CDS ZL2, the CDS system that Shawn was talking about. They all have that. And then that electronic leveling system within the scope helps a lot for mounting and shooting. So there are some differences there. Yep. Let's see.
Well, Nick's perusing for questions. One thing I'll say is I know bear seasons have opened in some parts of the country too. We're actually open here in Oregon. Nobody's gone out yet. We're waiting, wait a little longer, let those bears get up, get moving, get eating before anyone really messes with them too much. But if you've killed a bear, again, this year or in the past with a Leupold, send us the photos,
we love that
comment with them, send them to Scott on the Instagram page, and we'll see what we can do with them.
Boom and Hunt's sake, can you guys do a Leupold live on scopes, optics for multi-gun, 3-gun, and ARs in general? That'd be awesome. So that's a great idea. I love getting ideas. Speaking of spring, my area expertise, shooting is starting now too. You guys are getting out, practicing, competitions are starting. So that'd be a great one to tackle. H. Hodson, do you prefer spring or fall bear hunting?
See, that's a tough one, and it tends to be very divisive based on where you're at in the country or the continent. Some guys really love that spring bear hunting because if you're in a place where bears hibernate or go into a deep sleep, they're going to be out. They're going to push their plug out, and they're going to be feasting on things like grass. They're a little bit, they might be easier to find. And then you get later into the spring, and you might catch big boars out there cruising for sows.
Okay.
Especially out here in the Pacific Northwest. Later in the spring, you hunt on old logging roads that might be publicly accessible. You might catch boars cruising these roads, being real lazy about it. And then when they catch wind of a sow, that's when they go into the bush. Remember, predators are all about conserving energy.
Right, yeah.
Why is he going to hike through the thick stuff when he could just walk down this road that somebody put there for him, and then only go into it when he knows he's on a sow? In other parts of the country, fall's hot because bears are trying to fatten up big time. Like, it's like the last push to try to get big before they go into the ground and go to sleep. Thing with the fall is you don't time that right. Maybe winter comes a little early. Maybe they feel like they're sated, and they suddenly the switch goes off. They're
disappear.
Gone. They're gone. Again, our friend Fred Eichler in Colorado. I've been down. I've hunted elk and bear with him before, and he said sometimes it's like mid-October, just poof, the bears are gone. They're just not there.
It's like magic. Yeah. Let's see. James Kwan Lacey, what do you recommend for spotters? That's kind of subjective. We really got to know what you're doing. We have spotters all the way down from our gold ring 10 to 20. That's one that we've had out for a number of years. People kind of forget about that one. It's really small. It's only like that big. So it's you can have a spotter and not have that big unit that you usually think of, right? Also a 15 to 30, the classic 12 to 40 by 60. We have new ones too. If you haven't checked them out, the SX5 HD Sandy Am. That's kind of our top level spotter now. The optics in that are amazing. And then we have another new spotter that'll be coming out later this year too. So
yeah, it's really different tools for different jobs.
Yep.
I'd say for bear hunting, if you are in big enough country that you feel you need a spotter, it's really how far do you need to see. Pick your magnification wisely, because you do got to cart that thing around as you're moving through the hills. Usually pretty nasty country.
Yep.
And one thing about bears, I imagine most guys are using a spotting scope to find. Identification comes later. First, you got to find.
All right.
Black bears can be pretty easy to spot if they're out and about in the move. They definitely stand out in the woods. That dark, deep black. Yeah, you'll confuse a few stumps for them, but that deep black definitely stands out. It'll pop. There was a bear out in the Coast Range in Oregon here. I saw him 15 different times this year while I was hunting deer.
Yeah,
I had a tag. I didn't want to
that.
mess with him. I didn't want to mess with my first ever blacktail hunt, so I let him go.
Yeah.
But I mean, you could pick him out at 600 yards naked eye. Oh, there he is. And next day, there he is. Like he just stood out amongst all that green. Is very black. You can normally see them, especially since if you're going to find a bear, he's typically going to be on the move.
Yeah.
The rules with bears, so I'm told, they're either eating or on the way to eat. So I have that in common with bears most days.
Yeah, I was like, me too. I was like, maybe I'm a bear. I don't know. Canadian guy, 91. Spring black bears coming up in Ontario, up there in our neighborhood north. Can I use a 4570 government? Any optics suggestions?
I'd have to, I don't know Ontario's regs. I'd imagine the 4570 government is legal. I don't know why it wouldn't be.
Probably get the job done.
I don't. Absolutely
closer range. Yeah.
I applaud him for using one of the most American cartridges ever. Thanks, Canadian gun guy. For optics suggestions, I'm going to assume that's probably going to be a lever gun.
Yeah, probably.
So, maybe something a little bit smaller, a little bit lighter, maybe from our VX3i line.
VX3i. Speaking of light, someone did ask, I want to get to that question because I thought that was a really interesting question. I don't know where it went. Oh, there we go. Trip Hamilton. Thanks for putting in your question. Will you ever bring back an ultralight scope, sub 10 ounces? So I got that question a little bit earlier, so I did some research. I pulled up the catalog. I looked because I was like, oh, sub 10 ounces. I bet we have something. We do. Actually, the VX3i 1.5 to 5 by 20 is 9.3 ounces. So we have a sub 10 ounce scope. We are known for having the lightest scopes across, any category of scope. The Leupold is going to be the lightest. That, again, testament to our engineering and our team downstairs, all aluminum internals, and the fact that a light scope just performs better than a heavier scope. I won't get into the engineering details and mumbo jumbo about it, but a lighter scope is going to perform better. Yeah.
Look at the laws of motion, and you'll be able to start piecing things together.
Right. Yep. So I was going to say Skipper Outdoors, which is this guy over here on Instagram. Why would anyone listen to Shawn Skipper?
It's still a valid question. I appreciate you guys humoring me, but
I ask myself that every day. So. This was an interesting question. So Dick, he wants to know how far out would the Devo and LCO be practical for whitetail? I've never had someone ask me about the Devo and LCO for a whitetail application.
Just coyotes really for hunting.
Right. It would work. Absolutely would work. And if
you're a tree stand hunter, a lot of your shot. At least where I grew up, of course, Delaware, Maryland, lived in Virginia for 6 years. a lot of shots, you're out of tree stands, and you're maybe looking at tops between 60 and 80 yards.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the Devo could be applicable in those areas.
Yeah, I would caution the Devo is the reticles calibrated for a 223 round.
Which is not legal for whitetail in a lot of states.
Right, exactly. Now, the trajectories of a 223 and a 308 to about 500 yards-ish is about the same, and it's going to get you on point. So if you were using something in the 308, range, that reticle out, and you wouldn't probably want to shoot an animal that much further than that. Anyways, the reticle does go out to 900 meters, but again, that's for a 223 round. So.
Yeah, I'd say if you want to test that out, Texas 223 is legal for whitetail, and your opportunity should be great.
Go to Texas.
When in doubt, go to Texas.
When in doubt, if you want to test something and do something, go to Texas. Here's an open-end question. I like this. Michael Marble, what's your favorite caliber rifle?
Well, that's just unfair. I mean, you've really got to narrow it down.
Man.
And why do you have to have a favorite? It's like, what's your favorite?
Your
what's
favorite child?
Well, everybody has a favorite child. Nick, you know you do.
Yeah.
Hi, Nick's kids.
We don't want. Yeah, hi, Nick's kids. Yeah, love you. But yeah, I don't know if I have a favorite caliber.
Again, different tools, different jobs.
Yeah.
You know, if I'm hunting big game, I've killed more things with the 300 Win Mag than anything else.
Yeah.
If you're looking more East Coast whitetail, 308's trusty, reliable, simple, does the job. Just out there having a good time. How can you argue with 223? It's plentiful.
So I was going to go to 223 because I can have fun shooting my bolt gun or my AR with it, or training with it.
Who sent that question in?
Let's see, Michael Marble. I think that's who it was.
Michael, if we've got a little time left here, if you can follow up and really give us a scenario, we'll try to do better with that.
There you go. Right tool for the job, right? I always like that.
Yeah, you pick something out, we'll try to do better for you there.
Joseph McKinley, what's the best scope on the market? That's a softball, right? I think we're probably going to say Leupold.
Yeah.
For me, within the lineup, my favorite one right now is Mark V HD. So if you guys haven't seen a Mark V HD, check that out.
Yeah, Mark V HD, great for long range kind of competition stuff. Also great for some longer range hunting, the 3.6 to 18.
Absolutely.
Fantastic little compact hunting scope. Me, from a more traditional hunting background, VX5 HD, probably the best value on a hunting scope on the market. I mean, you can get started on these $700-800. Excellent optic.
Yep. This is a great question. Ryan Reddig, tips for new hunters or people wanting to get into hunting. So we talked a little bit about turkey, the accessibility of it being easier to get into. But to someone who's kind of hunting curious, how would you go about that, right?
Well, first, ask around. Try to find someone in your friend circle or acquaintance circle that hunts. If you don't have one of those, maybe you grew up in a very urban environment and none of the people real well hunt. That's okay too. Look at your state. ODFW, for example, here in Oregon, offers beginner programs.
Okay.
And sure, there are a lot of youths at those programs. Sure, but don't be too proud. If you want to get into something, do not be too proud, because we all started as beginners at some point.
You got it. I mean, y'all started not knowing anything, right? So.
And don't be too proud. Most states do offer kind of introductory programs like that, because everyone that's involved in this community wants the hunting community to grow and continue to thrive.
Yeah.
And once you go to those programs, you might meet a mentor who's willing to take you out to shoot on off hours, or go out and start teaching you game identification, things like that.
Yeah.
So the biggest thing is be open-minded and be willing to ask questions and be willing to be a student. It might have been 10, 20 years before you were an actual student. But go back to that and be willing to listen and learn, and don't be egotistical and don't be too proud. Honestly, 99% of hunters I've met have been happy to share their craft and happy to share their legacy with new people.
They want to share, for sure. Joe Putnam, hello from South Wales, UK. We love your kits. So that's awesome. Got them tuning in. I like that you say kits too. I say kits all the time too. I guess a little English there. Baseball player 4, love the products. Killed the biggest deer of my life with your optics. So that's why we do it, right?
Yeah.
That's great.
Send that photo.
Yeah, send the photo.
Baseball player 4, send that photo if you've got it.
Want photos. Jake Foyle, true 1-4 or 1-5 fire dot. VX5 HD is a 1-5 with a fire dot in it. You can do that. A 1-4, I don't think we have a 1-4. We have a 1 1/4 to 4, which I believe is the VXR. My eye, I can't really tell the quarter difference. It looks like true 1 power. So that would be a good option too if you are looking for a low power variable optic like that. 1-6 too. We have a 1-6, either a Mark 6 or a VX6 HD. So a couple different options there. for you. Now, the Mark 6 doesn't have the fire dot, different illumination system, but you can still get illumination in there. Let's see. Jacob Jensen 03, good long range calibers. He's not necessarily a spring question, but he's just looking for long range calibers. 6.5 Creedmoor is kind of the hot caliber at the moment. It's still hot. That's what I have a couple rifles in. Depends on how long you want to go though. So.
Yeah. And then our friends at Hornady and some other companies are playing with some new stuff like the 6.5 PRC that they came out with this year.
Yep.
So that market's definitely being spoken to very well across the industry right now. Yeah, so just keep paying attention.
Yeah, you're getting more niche calibers that companies are starting to produce factory ammo for. I know I don't have the time to reload and all that stuff, so all the weird calibers and stuff. There's a bunch of stuff out there, but I usually just go 6.5 Creedmoor. I can buy it over the shelf. There's many manufacturers that make a really good round that performs really well out of my rifles, so that's what I would do.
And while he looks for the next question, I'll hammer home that if you're putting together a long range rifle and you're spending money for a real nice rifle, whether it's custom or out of the box, you're going out and spending money for these cases of 6.5 Creed or 6.5 PRC or something like that. You want to put the right optic on top of it because when you start playing with that precision stuff, you are really going to notice the difference.
Yeah, I mean that's where the money shines that you spend on optics, right? You can't hit what you can't see. That's the old adage. And man, if you're struggling to see detail at that distance, and it's just you spend all this money on the gun, and then you kind of skimp on you're doing the gun a disservice, right? So.
And our friend Doug Koenig competes in production class matches. He shoots a Ruger RPR, Hornady ammunition, and a VX3i LRP.
He just won a match with the VX3i LRP.
Just three products right out of the box, nothing custom about any of them.
Speaking of, I want to say too, there was the world's longest shot competition, I believe, down in Texas. It was this past weekend or something like that. First place, Mark V HD. I think there was 5 Mark V HDs within the top 20 or so competitors. So if that tells you something. Take notice. Let's see. Oh, we're kind of running out of time here. So sorry guys, we didn't get to all your questions. We really do appreciate you tuning in and asking us all this stuff. I love rolling through all this stuff. So Shawn, thanks for coming by and talking about gear and techniques for the turkey and bear. Like you said, you're about to get out there yourself, right? So
yeah, I'll be in Idaho next month, Montana in June, and somewhere in there I've got to find time I've got a coastal bear tag here in Oregon for the spring. So hopefully I've got a couple bruins on the ground that we'll be able to talk about more later on this year.
It's a rough life. We'll have you back after the season maybe, and we'll talk about some lessons learned and how you did. So
sounds like a plan.
Awesome. Thanks, Shawn. All right, everyone, until next time, we'll see you.